You're listening to Power Talk, Berkeley Electric Cooperative's official broadcast about the cooperative, our communities, and ways to use energy wisely. And now, let's join our hosts for today's episode. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Power Talk. I am Micah Ponce, the Communications and Media Specialist here at Berkeley Electric Cooperative, and I'm going to be one of your hosts today. And of course, as always, I am joined by Miss Libby Roerig. Libby, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
What do we got going on today?
Well, we have one of our regular guests, Mr. Adam Bradshaw. You know, we used to do this show over at Kirkman Studios, and Terry Bass used to co-host with me. And he had a very special nickname for Adam that he is, in my mind, never going to live down. So, Paul Bunyon,
that's what it was.
We're happy to have you, but you've added to that title of distinction. You're also the reigning cornhole champion for Berkeley Electric. We recently had an employee appreciation event that featured a cornhole tournament, you know. And
it's hard. It's going to be hard to keep up all this, you know.
I know. You got a lot going on.
Are your shoulders sore from carrying your team to a victory there?
You know, there was a lot of good participation with my partner there. So I mean, I can't take all the glory, but I was a little sore. You know, we beat like 5 teams in a row, so
including his vice president.
Yeah, no comment.
Yeah.
Glad you're still here with us.
That's correct. Yeah.
It was a high stakes tournament.
Surprised I was going to be here.
Well, we have a great show today talking about what all Adam's department does on a daily basis, as well as our special spring incentive program that we have, Half Price Trees. It's a partnership with Arbor Day. So, Adam, tell us why it's important to plant trees and around your home especially.
Yeah, right. So I mean, there's many benefits of what trees give us, you know, from a perspective of the oxygen that we breathe, obviously. Also there's a component of energy savings, you know, so that's from, you know, planting them in the right place of your house, you know, so you can shade, you know, during the summer, help, you know, reduce some of those energy costs, and, you know, as well in the wintertime, the sun, obviously, you know, if you plant the right type of tree, a deciduous tree, which loses its leaves every year, you know, the sun can, you know, allow to go through that during the winter and heat your home at the same time. And there's also the component of being aesthetics. And so that's really, really hard to quantify and put something on, but I mean, people like trees. And so, you know, understanding that we have to do what we do in vegetation management to keep safe and reliable power. So, right. I mean, in order to do that, we have to, you know, trim trees back, you know, and, you know, sometimes it can be unsightly when we understand that, but there's a reason why we do what we do. So
this program is penance for all the trees that you killed during the year. You're trying to give back, add a little bit of happiness back to the world.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's kind of the purpose of the program, is to be able to, you know, do give back. And we understand we have to take. And so we like to be able to give back. And so we also have other programs within the vegetation area that we would do throughout the year. But this one particular one, I think our members have come to like.
Oh, yeah.
So how many years have we been doing this now? I can't quite remember. Keep.
So I want to say, Libby, help me out here. This would be the 4th annual.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's been well received. I think every year it sells out sooner and sooner. So I mean, I think it's very popular.
Yeah.
And again, this year we have a lot of good species, and a red bud that we have. I guess I'll go ahead and you know what we have available for this year is the red bud we've had every year. That's always looked really well. We've got back the Japanese maple, which was well received. People love that, and is personally one of my favorites.
They're so pretty. They start blooming early, like late February, and it's just that promise of spring, I think.
Yeah. And they're all. I mean, one of the key things that why we're giving we're giving them away, but it's a cost share program, so we are doing half of it. But why we choose these selections too is because, you know, they do provide some of those energy savings, and they do, you know, kind of give back, but also they don't grow tall.
Yeah.
They're not super tall canopy type trees because what we don't want is we don't want our members to be planting them around, you know, or under the utility lines.
Right.
And so, but with that, we do the smaller species, in which, again, the Japanese maple is personally one of my favorites, the Magnolia Jane, which we've we've had before is very popular, and like I say, the redbud's always been a staple. So,
Well, you were talking about planting the trees, and my understanding is with partnering with the Arbor Day organization, they've got a website where you can go and you can order your tree online. But one of the key features is they have an interactive planting guide. Isn't that correct?
yeah, that's a great point, Micah. Yeah, I mean, it's super interactive. I mean, really hands-on, really easy to navigate on there. And you're right. You can kind of, it'll pull up your location and actually have our lines overlaid on them. So actually, if you get too close to your house or too close to our lines, a utility, something, it won't let you drop it there.
Right.
Kind of thing. So you can kind of maneuver that around. It kind of gives you an idea of cost savings at a certain point as the tree grows. So, I really like the website a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have 3 great varieties, the Japanese maple, the magnolia jane, and the eastern redbud. And it is a cost-sharing program. So it's a $50 or more tree. I mean, these are large trees.
Right, they're not little twigs.
Yeah, it's not the free twig that you get on Earth Day or whatever at some of these events. It is a big potted tree. Co-op pays $25, and the co-op member pays the other $25.
That's correct.
And one thing to keep in mind, because when we say big, I mean, we're talking, anywhere from like 3 to 5 feet tall in some cases. And we've seen some interesting situations when some of our members show up in their little coop, to try to pick up one of these trees that's as long as the car is and trying to stuff it in there. So definitely plan for having a large tree that you need to be able to pick up. I think one of my favorite ones was, somebody showed up with a BMW and the back seat was full of kids. They made it work. The kids,
where there's a will.
Yeah, where there's a will, there's a way. The kids had a face full of tree as they rode home. But
it's character building.
Being in the woods, in your own car.
Very fragrant aroma, you can smell that magnolia jane. You know exactly what it smells like.
Exactly right.
But yeah, make sure if you do sign up for one of the trees, they do go pretty fast.
Oh, yeah.
We allow, how many trees do we allow this year to sign up for? Is it 2 trees per member?
2 trees per member. That's
2 trees per member. I think we have a total of 600 trees that we're going to evenly split between the species. But when they're gone, they're gone. So make sure.
I would say that definitely. Don't delay, because I think once our members see that we've got Japanese maple back, and even the other ones for that matter, I think they'll go pretty quick.
Well, I'm a member, and I have my eye on the redbud because I think 2 of my redbuds got killed by the quick temperature drop right before Christmas. They are not budding out, so
actually, I got a Japanese maple, and so what I did, instead of planting in my yard, I put it in a container. So I put it on like a patio planter kind of thing, and so they work really well for that too. So, again, I think I really like the species that we selected this year, and again, I think they'll probably sell pretty quick.
Yeah.
So.
And these species are specifically chosen, I think, like we've mentioned, to thrive in our weather. But we've had a seasonably cold snap that came through, which is a challenge for just about anything. I know I had some nice ferns. Don't have them anymore.
Same here.
Yeah, all the plants on my back porch are tropicals, and
it's that December.
They did not make it. Yeah,
freeze there. They got it for 3-4 days in a row.
Yeah.
Well, that first day I think was such a quick drop. Sure. It dropped 40 or 50 degrees in a matter of 10 hours. I've heard some plant people say that the plants couldn't brace for it as well.
I'd imagine some of that stuff comes back. It's just a matter of time to start. Pollen's already coming out already.
Oh yeah.
Things are blooming. I'm like, man, it's February.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But it's warming up for sure. And I just want to emphasize the point that you made, Micah, and maybe you as well, Libby, but about the selections and about the plants themselves. It is good quality plants. They get them from a nursery just in Florida. And so, they're good quality plants. They're not just something that you pick up at a hardware store or Walmart or anything like that. So they're, that means a lot.
Right.
So quality is there.
Yeah.
And so, if you are interested, you can visit Berkeley Electric's website. We will have a link on the homepage. So all you got to do is click, and it'll take you right to the Arbor Day website, and it'll get you going. One thing that you do need to know is that we are trying to restrict this to our members. So if you live in an address that's outside of our service territory, you might not be able to order the tree. So just be aware of that. And then we also are talking about with the Arbor Day, we have a 1-day pickup. So just want to make sure that we're saying that. What's the day we're picking up this year?
It's a Saturday morning, May 6th. So we'll be out there from 9 to noon for folks to come pick up their trees. It's a fun day for us because everybody's in a good mood. I mean, who doesn't like to celebrate spring, getting their tree? But it is 1 day. And these are perishable trees. So if you miss the 1 day, we really can't make arrangements. So if you might want to check your calendar before you buy the trees. And if you're not going to be in town or available to pick up on May 6th, maybe wait till next year.
Yeah, and something, obviously things happen, some things come up. We have done this in the past where if you can't make it, again, we've got to have that 1-day pickup. But if you have a neighbor that's coming or a friend or something like that, by all means, give them your printout, your copy of your tree information of where you purchased it, and bring that with you.
Yeah.
And that way you can pick their tree up for them.
Yeah. Right.
Or you can send somebody for you, even if they're not coming to get a tree.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you don't have to pick up. We're not checking IDs or anything.
Right.
Yeah, and we do offer 2 pickup locations. We'll have our Monk's Corner office, and this year it will be at the new location.
Yeah.
We've moved, in case y'all aren't familiar. We moved just down the road a little bit. We're still at Monk's Corner, but we have a new facility that's right off of Highway 52. Ironically, at the old nursery.
Good point.
So that's where we'll be picking up in Monk's Corner, and then we also will have the pickup location in Johns Island. And when you go on the website, you just choose whichever one's closer to you, and then come by from 9 until noon, and we'll be ready to stuff the tree in your car, no matter what size car you bring. We'll stuff it in there, tie it to the top. We'll get it home. We'll get it home somehow.
Yeah, and it's a pretty quick process. We check in and figure out what species you've bought, and then we load it up for you.
Drive through. You don't even have to get out.
They really don't even get out. You don't have to mingle around or nothing. We kind of bring everything to you and your information and any questions you may have. It's all right there.
Yeah, and we've done these pickups through COVID, so that's the reason why we made it so efficient. And
I was going to say it's about quicker than going through Chick-fil-A, but I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah.
They kind of got that down pat. So.
Well, I will have to say I'm kind of disappointed in my local Chick-fil-A. They've got rid of the call ahead mobile order line. They had one that was dedicated, and now it's not. They don't have a dedicated line anymore. So now I'm just mixed in with other folks who just don't plan ahead.
So now you got to go walk in.
Exactly, you go walk in.
So inconvenient.
But you don't have to deal with that when you come pick up a tree from Berkeley Electric.
We'll bring it to you with a smile.
Yeah, load it in your car. So, Adam, this is a special spring promotion that we do, but you guys do very important work to our BEC members all year long, and you have a team of dedicated employees. Right-of-way maintenance. What exactly do you mean by right-of-way maintenance?
Right. So, as you mentioned, it's right-of-way maintenance. Easiest thing to say is it's 24/7, 365, so to speak. So I mean, it never stops. Obviously, the trees never stop growing.
Here, anyway.
Yeah, exactly right. So they don't call it the Lowcountry for nothing. So, of course, we go through different types of seasons, whether it be dry or wet, and obviously the
pollen.
Yeah, exactly. And the vegetation reacts to all that. So I mean, we've got to come about ways to be able to manage it, and so that's kind of the bulk of what we do. I mean, we trim year round, and that's going on a cycle basis that, every couple years that we come back through the same given area.
Yeah.
And it's just to keep those limbs back away from the power lines.
Yeah.
And that's for, what our mission here is at the co-op, safety and reliability. So safety being number one, reliability shortly thereafter. And so we want to keep the lights on. And I mean, vegetation management, or I should say tree-related outages are typically the number one cause of power outages. And so, again, that's what our responsibility is as a vegetation team, as an area under in vegetation operations. That's what we do. So, and that's part of it. Trimming's part of it. There's other, brush management that we do. We also we clear for new power lines. We do TGRs, which are tree growth regulators. So those are in areas to where maybe we have a little less clearance. Maybe we have some bigger live oaks and things of that nature. We've started this a couple of years ago of actually, putting injecting the TGRs into the soil, and what it does, it just slows the regrowth from those trees. So we have to cut them less.
Yeah.
And so, they can actually make, our cycle. But by the time next time
Buy
we
us
come
more
back,
time.
because a lot of times you had to come back in between your cycles to trim those guys again. And the more frequent you trim on trees, the less healthy it is for the tree.
So a couple of years ago, we actually surpassed more underground lines than we have overhead lines. So a lot of times when we think of vegetation management, we think the overhead lines because a tree falling on the lines is obviously a problem. But right-of-way maintenance also extends to underground. Can you tell us a little bit about how that works?
Yeah, so as you said, I mean, overhead lines we got to be concerned of, but underground as well. So we've got the easiest way to say, look at the green boxes. So there's a lot of different types of green boxes, but they're all equally important.
Yeah.
And so what we don't want to do is plant anything around those and conceal them. I mean, we've seen where, people don't like their unsightly in the front of the yard.
Yeah.
Understand that and get that, but there's stickers actually on these boxes that tell you how far to plant vegetation and certain things away from here.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to plant them next to it because what happens is it ends up, so you plant a larger tree next to an underground transformer box. And so what does it do? As it gets older, it gets wider, it gets taller, and it starts pushing these boxes up and eventually cause issues and outages. And again, it goes back to that safety aspect. We don't want things to be hitting these boxes, pushing them up, and kids to be able to get access into them, and and we don't want to see that.
And well, I think it also has a little bit of a to do with outage response time as well, because I mean, if we were trying to, the power goes out, everybody wants it back on as quickly as possible. But if we're having to try to get into these boxes where somebody's planted bushes or whatever that you can't open the doors, I mean, we've got to clear that brush away to even access those pad mount transformers. That slows down the process. And of course, nobody wants to see their bush hacked up or anything like that. But you also don't want to be without power. So, I mean, that's one of those things that...
It's a give and take.
Yeah, it's a give and take. So, I mean, we definitely understand it's your yard. But some of those times when we have the equipment in there, we have to maintain those distances just for reliability's sake. We talked about right-of-way several times. Typically, like some folks have right-of-ways that go near their property or on their property. What does a right-of-way typically run in terms of like width or something for our distribution lines?
Yeah, so I mean, we've got basically two widths. So I mean, some of our older lines are 20 foot, and that's total. So that's 10 foot on each side of the center line. And then some of our newer right-of-ways and everything that we're getting now and is 30 foot. So same concept, 15 foot on each side of the center line. So that would be basically measuring from the pole out, to the left and to the right, 10 or 15 foot. And that will give you the total easement.
So as our members are planning and trying to make their property attractive, they need to consider the mature size of whatever they're planning. So look up. Yeah. Call before you dig.
And that's been very consistent with, many of our members that we've met with in the past. And we talk about, hey, we're going to be better off removing this tree for whatever reason it is there. Maybe it's the canopy tree. Maybe it's because they don't want to see us V it out or side trim it or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But I mean, you need to look up, and then, a lot of what we get from them is I never knew it was going to get that big. And it's, I mean, we can understand that. But I mean, I think that's a good point, Libby, is read on the tag, read on, most of them come with, do some research beforehand, understand not only how tall they get, but also how wide.
Right.
Because I think it could say, okay, well, you have a 10-foot easement. We're going to go this side inside of our property and then plant a red oak or whatever it might be on the edge of that easement. We'll understand that once it goes up, it's going to encroach all that right away eventually in, say, 15, 20 years, and we're going to have to start trimming it.
Yeah.
So you just have to keep that in mind, what type of tree, how tall it gets, how wide it is. So.
Yep. Definitely. So, another good tip is for homeowners to consider planting native species. We talked about the trees for Arbor Day that we selected are, great to live in this climate. Are there some other examples of native trees that work well in our area? Off the top of your head?
This wasn't on the script, folks. So gonna have to take a minute to think about this. It's a head scratcher, but no.
Well, and a little bit more about native species. They're just less susceptible to insects or other diseases that might affect a species. So, they know how to live in this area.
Right.
How about a pine tree? Everybody loves a pine tree.
I mean,
No, those are bad. Sorry.
Let's not plant. But I mean, if we even go back to, I know we're talking about trees, but I mean, you talk about even shrubs and grasses. There's tons of native shrubs and grasses that you can plant that, I understand people wanting trees, but I mean, sometimes they just want, vegetation in general. So those sometimes are, and there's a ton of stuff. I mean, Clemson actually has a very good website that they have of all the native species. I mean, it gives list after list after list of native species. And so, I mean, those are good places to check. I mean, again, call here, if anybody ever has any questions about what they should plant, where, those kinds of things. I mean, we can certainly, we have foresters that are in the districts that can help with that. And so, I mean, we're always available for our members. So, I mean.
Well, yeah, I think you said a key word there, too, because I know some of the concerns that our members have a lot of times, and you'd mentioned earlier, too, about V'ing the tree or the way that they're cut. You said that you have, foresters. When we're talking about our crews, what kind of certifications do our guys have to, and industry standards do they follow to make sure that, A, we maintain the reliability, but B, that we keep a healthy tree when we do have to do the trimming?
Sure. Yeah, so we're always after the help for the tree. I mean, we also have an objective to get it away from the lines. But as you mentioned, Micah, all of our foresters, they're all ISA certified, in which that's the International Society of Arboriculture. So they, there's several credentials there. All of our foresters have those, whether it be certified arborists, utility specialist, tree risk hazard assessment certifications. I mean, so, we have a plethora of those. I mean, those are good to have. I mean, just the knowledge base of what all those foresters bring as well. So we go behind they go behind our contractors, and they inspect all the work. So if they're missing something, it's maybe not quite to our spec, or if we see bad cuts, topping cuts, stuff like that, they'll send them back to make proper cuts and all. So we want to adhere to all the BMPs through ISA and everything like that. So, I mean, we can get our clearances, but yet leave the tree as healthy as possible.
And we've talked a good bit about the importance of tree trimming to reliability, but let's talk a little bit about safety. What happens could happen when a tree grows into the lines? What kind of safety problems does that cause?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the member base, I mean, one, if you have trees that are touching the lines or anything, if you have children or anybody for that fact, swing sets, we've seen where there's swing sets under trees. And so, I mean, that tree can become energized. And so we don't want that, obviously we don't want anybody to get hurt. So, I mean, those are important safety. That is also, with our linemen and all during the nights, during restorations, those types of things, like it presents a safety hazard to them. And we talked earlier about the underground stuff, about accessing these boxes and all. And they got to have at least 10 foot in front of these boxes to be able to work their sticks and stuff like that. So, again, these are just safety challenges that the vegetation can present. And I would also say, even from a cost perspective, it's everything that we do is driven around costs, and typically it's one of the most expensive budget items at a utility is vegetation management, tree trimming, the whole thing. And I mean, if we keep the trees away, we don't plant new ones in the right of ways. Well, we don't have to do it. So that's a cost savings to our members, because we are spending our members' money, and so we're trying to spend it the best that we can, and so our members can help us in that way. I mean, by again, not planting in right-of-ways around boxes, underneath power lines, and again, if they're not there, we don't have to trim them.
Well, and then I think also if they're a little too close, those limbs can be tapping on the line when it comes to, the wind's blowing and you got a tree just tapping on the line, causing power blinks, which everybody just loves those. So,
absolutely.
I mean, so that's just another one of the aspects. I mean, just quality of life issues. So, when you're watching the big game and you don't have, the tree tapping on the line and causing power blinks and everything else like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and probably to embarrass Adam a little bit more, since Adam came aboard on the co-op, we've achieved record reliability. So it is a huge investment for the co-op, but it's very important work that we're seeing the dividends of every day, certainly, but also during inclement weather, whether it's a summer storm, a hurricane, or just a bad thunderstorm during the summer, or ice events. Sure. Yeah, just time and time again, we have fewer and fewer outages and problems because of vegetation.
That's all thanks to Adam. all by himself.
It is.
No. It takes a team. It takes a co-op. I mean, it takes everybody involved. I mean, it's amazing how many different areas, departments that engage in what we do, including you guys, as far as promoting things and getting information out there.
Yeah.
I mean, to the people that help you in your area, to the engineering side, GIS side. We run a full base, software that we help manage our right of way. So I mean, it's when you start thinking about it, really, absolutely. So I mean, for one person to be responsible at all is definitely not the case. I mean, it takes a huge team, and I've been very blessed that I have the people that I do in my area.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be what it is without them. So.
Yeah. Good crew. So you talked about we go in cycles around our service territory, and our service territory touches the Tri-County. So we're not just in Berkeley County. Sure. Some people, based on our name,
Berkeley
make
Electric,
that mistake.
so.
Yeah. So if we're going to be trimming in your area, let's kind of walk a member through the process. If they're going to be affected, we send them a notification. Is it by email if we have email and mail?
Yes, so they get both forms.
Okay.
If they have an email on count, then yes, they do receive an email. If they don't, I would suggest maybe adding one to your account. You know what I mean? That most people, tend to get that form of communication. But yeah, we do both forms.
So when a contractor goes near their property or on their property to do the trimming, what's that process roughly look like? I know every case is probably a little bit different.
Yeah, so like you said, I mean, currently we have 3 contractors on our system. So, we're cutting all over the place. So we cut across our system, as you mentioned. We're in Charleston, Dorchester, and Berkeley County. So, I mean, now we've got somebody in Charleston County. We've got somebody in Berkeley County, and I don't think we have anybody. We have somebody in Dorchester County. So actually, we're in all 3 counties, as y'all mentioned. Yeah. So they're kind of stretched apart. But so we tracking where they're moving, how fast they're going. That, like you said, the rain, all that slows. It picks up, those kinds of things. But what we do before we go into a new area after we complete one, we try to 2 or 3 weeks in advance. We try to send out those notifications, and that's just a general. Hey, you should be seeing us soon. This is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. And so I should also mention with that, you can actually go onto our website as well and go onto the vegetation management page. And there's an interactive map there that shows you, that's live and that's up to date. So, I mean, it'll show you the progress of where the crew's at. So you can actually zoom in to your house,
see how close they're getting,
see where they're at, and it has all the legends and the keys over there, so you'll understand what all the symbology means and the colors. So those are two main forms that we have. And again, if you get that letter, if you have questions like we have in the past, I mean, people say, hey, I've got this particular issue or a septic tank or whatever it might be. They're like, hey, I want to let you know, and so we can communicate that to our foresters. They can reach out to the members, kind of communicate and coordinate that work and whatever the issues may be. Yeah,
we're definitely a phone call away or an email away. Well, Adam, thanks so much for all the hard work your guys do. It certainly is a team effort, and I know you're grateful to have such a great team, from folks in the office down to the contractors who aren't BEC employees, but they're doing important work on our behalf. So we're getting into the last couple of minutes of the show, and just wanted to recap the Arbor Day tree partnership that we've got coming up. The trees are on sale now, and you can go to our website or to arborday.com or
arborday.org/BEC. But in case you don't remember it, like I said, we got it linked on the website. Make it real easy. And as we mentioned before, it's got an interactive planning guide. It'll show you exactly what trees are available. As we mentioned earlier, too, it's only $25 for you. The co-op covers the other $25 just because we're nice like that.
And they are nice, big-sized trees.
Yep.
I'd say
couple-gallon buckets or something.
So, maybe the Japanese maple, maybe 3 gallons. I'm not sure, but it's typically 5. Okay. 5-gallon trees.
So we've got Japanese maple this year, magnolia Jane, and like I said, those flower early in the spring, well, before spring really even. And eastern redbud, and members can get up to 2 trees of any of those 3 while supplies last. And we do have a 1-day pickup event, 9 to noon on Saturday, May 6th, and that's going to be at our Monk's Corner and our Johns Island offices. And like I said, it's a 1-day deal. These are living creatures that it's difficult for us to. We're not running a nursery, even though we are on the old nursery property in Moncks Corner.
Exactly. Well, thank y'all for listening, and thank you, Adam, for joining us once again. And if y'all are curious as to what he looks like, you can you've heard him
Paul
before,
Bunyon.
but yeah,
Cornhole
website.
champion.
you're sort of visualizing in your head, but you can actually visit our YouTube page and you can see for yourself because we have a video podcast as well. And thank you for joining us. This is Micah Ponce, and we're signing off.